Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you the one thing that I believe makes the most difference when capturing realism in acrylics. Now when painting animals, seascapes, whatever it may be, there is one main fundamental thing that I like to focus on, and that is contrast. Now contrast is the importance of values, the lights and the darks. Now on this kitten painting here you can see that just with a few brush strokes I'm coming in and adding my highlights. Now before I added my highlights this looked realistic, but by adding a few more and taking that time to just be a little bit more precise with the placement of those highlights and shadows and refining that, it really helps to take the painting to the next level. Now for example this horse here, I've pretty much finished, but this last layer I felt like I could add a little bit more of a three-dimensional shape to the face, so I'm just using a filbert brush to add in a few more of my highlights. And look at how that's helped to exaggerate more of the structures underneath the skin. It's really highlighted more of the elements such as the cheekbones. Now this is what helps to build up shape and form, and that's really important when painting any animal. So a seascape for example, the highlights and shadows here, they're not random, they are following the lighting from the sky and how that is being reflected onto the water. So I don't want to be adding a load of random highlights or shadows everywhere. This is very important to make sure that we are studying that reference photo closely. That's telling us exactly how bright the highlights need to be, how dark the shadows need to be, and the placement of those as well. And it might only be darkening it up just in one area like I'm doing here to replicate the darker clouds in the sky. But just adding that though, taking those few extra minutes can make a real difference. So take this area of the snow leopard for example. This looks like fur. It could be very tempting to just leave it like this and call it finished. However, if I come back in now with more of my lighter values and leave it at this stage, look how much more depth we have here. So by adjusting those contrasts, getting those values lighter, making sure that you've also got your shadows dark enough, that's going to have a huge impact for how realistic this fur and therefore the entire animal is going to look when the painting's finished. Now if a painting is going to highlight the importance of values and contrast, it's this one here. I loved creating this tutorial. All of these projects I'm showing here are all available on my Patreon channel as a real-time version, step by step, and I'm really focusing here on the back of the ear of creating that curved appearance. Now in order to do that, the values are key. So I've got a really bright highlight at the top. I'm using bright titanium white for that, so it's not mixed with any other colour to darken it, just titanium white on its own. And that opacity, that light colour is helping to build up a real sharp contrast. Now if I didn't have my highlights really bright at the top and I wasn't building up my darker layers at the bottom and reinforcing the shadows like what I'm doing here, then this ear is going to look very flat. So look at how I'm curving the highlights and shadows. All of this is helping to build up that shape and form. So the next example is showing how the contrast and values are very important when building up more of a one-sided light source. This again helps to really build up maximum depth by making sure we're not just putting highlights and shadows in random places where they're not needed. Now I could leave it here at this stage. It looks like a trunk, you can tell it's elephant skin. But as I continue to refine those contrasts, the values, look at how it's starting to take on more of that shape. So what I'm trying to capture here is that we've got the sides that go away from the camera, and then as it comes towards the center, it's got that rounded shape. So in order to capture that, I have to make sure that I've got the values on the left and the right hand side correct. Now it's not just the painting of the animal that helps with the contrast, the background will have a big influence on that as well. So you can see here for the rabbit painting that I did use a dark background, and that's helped to make the highlights on the rabbit look even brighter. Now of course I have lots of dark shadows on the rabbit as well. The very lower left corner, that's pretty much black, and then it fades up into the fur on the body. But here I'm really starting to refine that real light highlight on the edge of the shoulder, the front leg and the back leg. Now again, in that finished photo in the corner, you can see how that's helped to make it look like the lighting is just catching that side of the body. It's helping to build up some softness, some additional detail, and giving this painting that real wow factor because the contrasts are correct. Now something I would like to mention to summarise the importance of contrast is how I don't work with my brightest highlights directly on top of my darker base layer. There are many layers that I add shown here throughout each of the examples, and those midtones, those subtle layers, help to build up that contrast. It's all about adjusting those values gradually as we layer. Now, the number of layers that I use is going to vary depending on the animal or the subject that I'm painting, but I really want to be making sure that when I do work with these last layers, like for these finer little hairs on the edge of the guinea pig's neck, that they are then my lighter highlights. If I need to come in and darken some shadows, I can of course do that, but I do want to make sure that I save my lightest values for that last layer. So I really do hope that this video has been useful, just to demonstrate with a few different paintings the importance of getting those values right. But if you've got any art related questions, anything that I've mentioned in this video, then feel free to pop them in the comments below, because I'm more than happy to help if I can. And if you would like to paint along to any of the projects that I've shown in this video, or any of my other step-by-step tutorials, then I'll link my Patreon in the description below. If this video was useful, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like and a thumbs up, because it makes a huge difference to my channel. And I do upload 2 new videos to YouTube every week, so if you would like to get notified of that content, then don't forget to hit the subscribe and the bell button. I'm going to be uploading another video next week, but as always, thank you so much for watching.